Anaxa's first rerun is finally almost upon us, and today I'm here with the should use summon for the rerunning character. Talking about why he ended up being as strong as he is, pros and cons about him, and the reasons why you should or should not summon. Before I get into the video, be sure to check the description to join the Discord server, where it is about practically anything gacha related, and you can also talk about non-gacha related things, as there is a general chat and also a other gaming channel if you want to talk about non-gacha games as well. Anyway, let's get into the video. So now with how much time has passed since Anaxa has released, most people have realized his actual potential as his own hyper carry DPS. While yes, he is still the best in slot erudition character for the Herda, he himself really does shine still when he is his own DPS. Especially with battles becoming more often less enemies on the field, where Bounce definitely does excel. He actually straight up outperforms his best partner, quote unquote, the Herda in a lot of cases. What really sets Anaxa apart from every other DPS in the game, and yes, I mean quite literally every single other DPS in the game, is the way he himself buffs his own damage through his kit. Rather like other DPSs, which may have stuff like self-attack increases and more common oversaturated buffs, Anaxa himself provides himself with a lot of ways to get one of the strongest ways to do more damage, which is defense shred / defense ignore. Anaxa's base kit alone does allow him to gain 4% defense ignore for every one different type of weakness the target has. And Anaxa's unique thing is he implants every single weakness in the game. Yes, he makes every enemy that he hits, if you hit them enough times, to be weak to every weakness element in the game, giving him also up to a 28% defense ignore. Not only that, but if they do have 5 or more weaknesses, they get inflicted with a state called Qualitative Disclosure. In that state, Anaxa deals 30% increased damage to targets with that Qualitative Disclosure state, and he also gets a free instance of his skill that does not consume any skill points. So even if you were to basic someone with 5 or more weaknesses, you get a free skill usage just like that. So making enemies take more damage from him, making them weak to every single weakness, which will include wind, which is what he is, and being able to get the best increases via a very rare debuff / buff, being defense ignore / shred, which the shred mostly would come from something like his Lycon or even his early investments such as E1, is what very much sets him aside to be one of the most unique DPSs in the game. This also does mean he very much gets the biggest buffs when it comes to what supports do provide. Attack buffs are like the holy grail to Anaxa since he is very attack starved. He has good damage multipliers, which is why something like Attack Orb is better on him. But attack buffers, especially Sarija, Robin, and even Ting Yun 4-star, are extremely strong with him because they help fix his attack stat. And a lot of supports end up providing some form of attack. Some Lycons can even provide some form of attack, which is why it's so strong. Anaxa quite literally works with every single buffer minus break buffers like Fugue, because that's just how he functions. Sunday, Bronya, Sparkle all can work. Sparkle a bit less so, but still does work. Tribi, of course. Sarija, best partner. Robin, godlike. 4-star Ting Yun, great. Even Hanya works too. Again, minus Fugue, unless you're doing some super break setup, which is really whack, he very much gets a massive increase from all these support, just because he himself is doing the rare work with defense ignore, and so all these buffs that other supports provide, again, even more damage still does help. Attack percent especially, in some cases like Ruan Mei, or also like Tribi with all-type Respan. Support Eidolons even giving all-type Respan, he just gets so much value from those as opposed to a regular DPS. The only other stat that he has besides damage, which is kinda on the more saturated side, is on his own, he does increase his own crit damage by 140%, being the one erudition character on the team. So at base, he always has 190% crit damage. So a solid build can net you up to 300% crit damage on his own. And of course, you still have stuff like the Action Advance, which is always on his team, them buffing crit damage. So it can be a bit saturated in that sense, but it's not enough to be super oversaturated to the point it's bad. So even crit damage still has its value. That is really what sets him apart from these other DPSs. And then you combine the fact that you can get 2 skills off multiple times. He works great with Sarija, who can give you up to 4 skill procs. Yes, the Sarija instance where you get the double skill does proc his talent twice if you do it correctly, giving you up to 4 skills from Anaxa. It's insanely strong. So pros and cons now for Anaxa. The pros are practically endless. As a debuffer / sub DPS, he can do great things. He also has an extra thing in his ultimate called Sublimation, where if an enemy attacks and then you can practically stop them from attacking as long as they're not immune to crowd control debuffs. His damage is very solid and consistent. He has access to a lot of one of the most rare buffs / debuffs, again, defense shred / ignore. He has a lot of flexible builds. You can build them on Genius Set, you can build them on Scholar, you can build them on Pioneer. There's even some other ones like Wind Set, and also even Wave Strider in some cases. He has a lot of a build variety. He has insanely flexible team options, as again I mentioned, he works with every single support minus Fugue. Of course, his best ones are going to be the more premium ones. If you have dupes, even more. But even without them, he can do insane things at low cost. He also has a lot of Lycone options. Of course, his signature, the Herta's Lycone. Past those two, his best one was a free 4-star Lycone, which I'm pretty sure you can now get in the Herta shop as well. That Lycone is just his best in slot. That was, again, given out for free. When it comes to 4 stars and after the actual signatures of his own or the Hertas, being balanced can also be looked at a pro or a con, technically. I'm going to mention this in the pro section just because it's better now. 3 or less enemies, he is going to do so much more because balance is multiple instances of each hit. So if they all hone into one enemy specifically, it's going to do insane damage as opposed to having the bounce spread out. Where the con side would come into play of him being that bounce can make it to where if it's fully AoE, like Pure Eviction, it does let him drop off a bit. So now moving on to cons, again, the section of the bounce, if it's against AoE, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Another problem that you could technically look at is his reliance on a action advanced character. He's not completely reliant on it. Like, you don't have to have a Bronya or Sunday or even Sparkle or even RMC in that case. He still works fine without it, but to get his best results, you do want to have that, especially at a -1 setup, which is why I mentioned Sparkle works less, but still does work. -1 setup is where you see his true potential. And now for reasons why you should or should not summon. Reasons why you should summon is, of course, the most common one is going to be if you need another DPS, especially wind-sided DPS. He is just going to be one of the greatest options you can use, especially if you have a lesser account that might not have the greatest options for support, or a lot of your supports that are mainly used are taken up. As again, he has so much flexibility as opposed to the majority of DPSs in the game right now. So of course, the most common thing is going to be looking at your account. If you're in need of a DPS, he is going to work great. And the best part is because he implants every single weakness, so he will quite literally force every enemy to be weak to wind. You can really use him anywhere. The only time you don't want to use him is against full AoE battles. And even then, you still can very much use them. It just depends on your investment and such. So if you're looking at lower investment side and you need a free-to-play for AoE, I'm going to mention that in a more skip section. But in 3 enemies or less, so you need lesser enemy focus, or you have good invested in support so you can give him a really good team, then in cases where it's AoE, he still will function. So mainly, if you're in need of a DPS in general, he is just a great option for you. Reason to skip would be practically the opposite. If you don't need a DPS, then why bother? And then, as I did previously mention, if you do want more of an AoE-centric DPS, let's say you already have your single target covered with someone like Archer or even Facial, 3 targets, blast, you have a bunch of characters that are still, could be single target or just blast themselves. If you have that covered and you really need AoE coverage and you're maybe a light spender or you don't spend at all, and you're only really planning on like, should I get E0 S0 with like my E0 S0 supports? In that case, definitely look to invest in someone else instead. As E0 S0, and especially with E0 S0 supports, his AoE potential will not be the greatest. And that does wrap up the video, going over reasons why Anaxa is just really good. Pros and cons, quick reasons why you should or should not summon. This video is definitely on the shorter side, as it is a lot more straightforward because Anaxa is really unique and it's quite easy to get through what he does better than others, and why he's so unique in the first place. And since he's a DPS, there's very basic reasons on why you should or should not summon. Anyway, I do hope you found the video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of style content. And I'll see you later. Peace out.